Hi there, I'd like to invite you to my free Telegram community where I teach thousands and thousands of people how to make better music. In this community, I hold free monthly master classes where I teach how to make beats, how to record, how to mix, how to master, and so much more and in between. You can literally go from zero to being a pro just by being active and part of this community. You can also send in your tracks. Maybe you have a song you want to review, you want feedback, you can send it in and you get hundreds and hundreds of feedback and reviews instantly. And also, you get access to my project files, kits, loops, and much more that you see me using my tutorials. I'll be waiting for you on the other side. And don't forget to join in. All you have to do is click the link in the description below. Welcome. Hello there. So, when you download the project file, this is what you get in your download folder. All you have to do is make sure you have an extractor, maybe a WinZip, WinRAR, or any of the similar programs, and extract to the folder, extract to beat mixing class. And it's going to extract into a folder like this. And you're going to see these. And what you simply do is you drag and drop it into your FL Studio. Make sure your FL Studio is open and you are on your playlist. If you can't find the playlist in FL Studio, you simply click this icon right here. You can access your playlist. My window is minimized, that's why it looks small. So yours might be full. If yours is full like this, you can minimize it so you can select. And to select it, just make sure you drag all. You can hold this and shift is going to select all. Like if I select this and I click while I'm holding shift, all is going to be selected. Or you can just sweep all, but we don't need this readme in here, so use your control and select it. And you just hold your left mouse and drag and drop in here. It's going to take some time, so you have to be patient with it. And when it's done loading, let's expand it. Let me play it back so you're listening. Come to the song mode right here. Then you see how that sound. This is not the actual tempo. The actual tempo is 100 BPM. It just stretches the stems. These are called stems. These are individual parts of the song. So we're just going to right click and then select 100 BPM. That is the tempo of this particular beat. Different beats have different tempo. So you're going to be patient while it stretches it. And when it's done stretching, this is how it's going to sound. All right, now you notice it sounds a bit off, and that is because this master and this current are here while exporting. So we'll take them out. Make sure that if you get project files to mix and you see the master, let me bring them back with Ctrl Z and Ctrl Z. When you see a master and a current in the list of the project, or rather a render of the complete project, make sure you take them out. Make sure you take them out and then we'll listen now. All right, so it sounds balanced now. So I'm going to sort this. We're going to sort all of this now. I'll just arrange the drums first. Let's just, or you can do it just by insert one. You can insert space, right click and insert space. So let's move the kick up here, the percussion loop up here. I think that's pretty much it for the drums. And okay, I can see a clap. I think that should be for the drum rolls. Let's just have the drum rolls. So we can give a space in between so it will look organized. All right, then now we can bring the melodies in. This is our chords, reverse chords, and then bass will be last. So you can see now we have all our projects sorted out, and you can even go and color coding to even make it more visually appealing for you. You can color code. you just color code. By the way, to color code, you simply left click here and then you come to change color. But this is not necessary. This is just to help you understand, like, where you see why, you see why soon. So change color. So we'll come to a different spectrum. Change color. See, change color. Come here. All right, so you see we have it all color coded now. Let's also change that color. All right, so now we're going to link this to the mixer. I'll go to this individually. So let's resize this. You can collapse this so you have a better view. And then you minimize this option right here. Then bring out your, double click your mixer in case if you're having problem resizing it, try to minimize. Then you can stretch, this is all resizable. You can stretch it out. And then, you know, if you don't want to scroll through like this, you can simply do this, come to this angle right here and minimize them like this. So we can have a decent view of what we are mixing. It will minimize mistakes. So we select the kick. Make sure you double click the kick. And let's see. Make sure you click detach so that it doesn't go away. And also the mixer is detached as well. So that it helps you focus more on the project. So Control L or Command L if you're using Mac. Then you come here. You do it for individual. Now in the clap, we have this here. Then this is a percussion, it's supposed to be with the drums. So we'll give it space. So the counter melody, we're going to leave some space. Then this is also supposed to be for the drums as well. So we'll take it up here. We'll bring this melody down here. So you see why it's important to leave space. When you double click it and it takes you to the master, that means it has not been linked to the channel yet. Like if I double click this, then peg 31 has not been linked yet. So now you can see we don't have space in between again. How do you solve that? You can select this and hold, or hold Control and select, Control and Shift and select multiple if you want to select multiple, and then use alternate and your left arrow key, and you can see you can easily introduce space in between, and you can move anyone around by holding alternate, and you can see I can move it all around. So now we have, so let's select these two and move fit to our drum section area. So now let's come to our chords, melody, reverse, pads, and bass. You can see it's all arranged now, our drums and our melodies. So to make sure it's all in line, you can close this temporarily. Then you observe and make sure it's all linked. You can see, and no one is sharing the same number. They should not be repeating numbers. You don't see 9 here and 9 somewhere else. They should all be on different numbers. And when you are sure that this is the case, then we can listen and make sure that they're all on track. Let's listen again and see. You can see that they are all on the mixer track now. If you're not familiar with FL Studio interface, it's really easy to understand. Let's use this right here. This is a channel or an insert in FL Studio. This is where the signal runs through. If I click it, you can see the bar moving up and down. It means the kick is running through insert one. And what this is how to pan it left or right. It means how you move it within the stereo field, between the left channel or the right channel. So if I were to pan it here, you can hear the kick pan to one other side of the spectrum. And this is how loud you want. This is how you control the loudness. That is the gain, the levels. Then this is if you want to have a wider stereo separation, if you want it mono, or if you want it completely 100% stereo. This can be useful when mixing. And this is how you route your channels into other channels. This is a basic mixing course, so I'm not going to go in depth into how to route channels to your other inserts. So this is where you add effects. Like if I select this kick or any other one here, you can see the name here changes. Kick, peck. If I click kick, this is where I add effects. By clicking a slot, I can add any of the effects. Sometimes maybe categorizing your FL Studio software into dynamics, filters, flangers, misc, distortion, delay and reverb, and much more. So, and this is a EQ. We'll not be touching this most of the time because we will have our custom EQ here where you can adjust the frequency, loudness. Like if you want to boost the frequency, you want to reduce or cut the frequency, you can easily do that here, but we'll not be using this most of the time. And then this is how you mute the channel if you want to mute it, or if you want to turn it back on, and right click to solo it. And this channel right here is where all the other channels run into. Every channel right here, you can see they're all routed to this guy right here, the master. All of them, they are kind of slaves to the master. And this is where you toggle effects on and off. And when you're mixing, you turn off your fruity limiter. We don't want our limiter on the master channel while mixing, because it's going to create kind of like it's going to kind of sum it and affect the dynamic range of our mix. We don't want it to control the dynamic range of our mix yet. We'll do that later on after we're done mixing. All right, so now let's move on to mixing the drums. So we're going to solo all the, by right clicking this, we're going to solo all the elements of the drums. And then we're going to listen. You can zoom in here if you want a more visual information. So the first thing you do while mixing is gain staging. Like if this was too loud, this is bad. You don't want it to cross 0. You can see this bar right here, this number right here minus 0 0.2. You don't want it to cross 0. It should always be less than 0. So the first thing is gain staging is just simply how you find relative balance and loudness between different elements. So we're going to start with the kick. We're going to see solo again some more. Right click so the kick will only be on. We're going to again stage the kick. Then we're going to add an EQ to the kick to take out some unnecessary low frequencies. Now I'll have to attach this back so that effects can come, and yeah. All right, so play it back. And we're going to just, most times for kick, anything below 40 hertz is fine to cut them off, most times, or 35 hertz. But do not cut it so much that you start losing the character of being a kick. So that is just being too much and unnatural. You just want it to sound natural, but taking out the frequencies you really can't hear. And for kicks, most times, especially in Afro, it's usually below 40 hertz. So let's leave it at between 30 and 35 hertz. You can boost here if you want it to be sharper, just a little boost. You don't need to go crazy like this, just a little boost here, or a little cut if you want it to sound round and dull, or a little boost here if you want it to sound sharp and, you know, punchy. So I may want mine to sound round and dull, so I'll just do some cuts here. Then I'm going to leave my kick in the center. It's not ideal to pan your kick left or right, or any bass elements. Do not pan your bass elements left or right. So next you have my percussion loop right here. So we're going to gain stage. We're going to take it down completely. A rule of thumb when you're trying to mix in your percussion loop or your snare and your clap, all of that, you can take it down completely, then try and raise the level up to a point where you start hearing it being on the same level with the kick. Like as soon as you start hearing it sounding complementary to the kick, then it's fine. For example, I'm going to keep increasing. I think this is fine for now. I may adjust later. Nothing in the mix is fine now. You can always come back and adjust later. But for now, I think this is fine. Then I'm going to add my equalizer. You can see there's not much information going on here. That's because there's, when you see no information going here, it means the main frequency is not here. But when you see the brightest lights happening, or where the lights are more centered, that is where majority of the sound is. So if I were to cut this all the way here, you can see how it's sounding unnatural. We don't want that. So we just cut a little bit up to this point, take out all the unnecessary low end, and just a little bit into the main frequency, but not enough that you start to notice the difference. As soon as you notice the difference, back up a little. You are doing too much already. All right, so now I'm going to add a little bit of reverb to this. Let's see, just a little bit of reverb. A rule of thumb is, especially for beginners, when you're mixing, is just add a little reverb. So once you're hearing the reverb, then it's enough. I'm going to turn it down completely. I'm going to increase it a little. Of course, I increase the size and I increase the diffusion so I can easily spread. I'm going to leave this as normal. That is the decay. So you can see I'm already hearing at 9%. I'm already hearing some reverb. I'm going to turn it down. For reverb, it's best to use headphones. Headphones will give you a better information on what's going on in the reverb. So yeah, just let's leave it at 5%. You can see it here, 5%. So just as little as that, trust me, it's fine. Mixing is just when you do little steps, it's going to give you big results. You don't need to do crazy things while mixing. Just little steps can get you really good and great results. So this is enough reverb. You do not add reverb to your kick, so it do not cause echo and resonance and increase the mod. You leave your kick dry without reverb. Do not add reverb to any bass element, so that is your bass guitar, your bass drum, or 808 or sub bars. Do not add any reverb or delay to any elements that has low frequencies as the dominant frequency. All right, so we're going to come to these are kind of like the transitions. I'm going to reduce this. Gain stage as usual. I'm going to listen. Yes. Then we're going to come to the EQ. It's best to EQ as much as you can. I'm going to cut all of this. Just upward in that point. Then we're going to go on to the next. Okay, I believe it's this guy. We're going to adjust the levels also. All right. So we're going to add EQ. Now for this sound, we don't really care about the low frequencies for this kind of sound. It may sound too sharp in your ear or when you're listening. So to dull it, you just take out some high frequency to blunt to make it less sharp. You can do some more. All right. Then let's come to this guy right here. think it's this. So I'm going to reduce the volume. So if you notice, we've not panned yet. We've not taken this to the left or to the right. And that's because this loop already has some kind of mixing inside it already. It's already panned. But if you were to pan, for example, your snare and your clap should be between. If you were to pan, you see the percentage right here. Your snare and your clap should be between. I'm going to have a chart that you can download for reference. Your snare and your clap should be between 0 to 11%. It shouldn't be far beyond that. It's going to sound too further apart. So your snare and clap should be between 0 and 11%, left or right. It doesn't matter. Then your percussions can be further spread apart between 0 to 20 to 25%. Depends, like your shaker, your hand drums, they can be further apart 0 to 25%. And that's it for when mixing drums. I'm going to leave a chart where you can download the mixing panning charts. All right, then let's move on to mixing melodies. So we're going to start now with mixing melodies. You can always zoom this out by doing this and coming to the melody section. And the rule of thumb when mixing melodies is you start with the most frequent and sustaining melody. Most times it's the chords. Like you can see this right here, it runs all the way through. So this is most likely what we're going to start with. I'm also going to leave a PDF that is a chart that you can download so you can understand better the panning for melodies as well. So now it's turned off because we turned it off in the mixer before. So we'll come to chords. We'll just make sure it's selected and it's going to show these chords. So we'll start at a bar. And the first thing we're going to do is gain stage. So we take it down all the way. And I'm going to bring it up until we start hearing it sound like almost like as if it's at the same level with the snare. So you use your snare to kind of gauge how loud the melodies should be. It's just a trick, it's a hack, it's not a rule. This is a hack that I've discovered. So I'm going to take this all the way up gradually. And when you find that it's now at the level of your snare, then you can take it a little bit higher. Now this is fine. So now we're going to add EQ. So now we're going to take out this region right here. I'm going to take this region right here out. Just don't do this, please. This is bad. This is bad. This is best. Because it still sounds natural, but we've taken out the muddy frequencies. So if you notice, let me play it. If you notice, this region here sounds overly louder than this first region. Let me go in deep so I see what I'm saying. This point here and this point here, you can see how loud this region is. And this is when you need a compressor. So we're going to come here. A compressor helps control the dynamic range. That is, it helps control how loud and how quiet the parts of that same signal is. So it doesn't make so if a part is too loud, it tries to bring it down to a level playing field. So I'm going to, this threshold is where the compressor starts working. So this is just a rule, like a guide. You can leave it halfway, then you can make this ratio is kind of like how hard your compressor is going to bring it down to that level. Then we'll leave this attack as it is, 15. We'll leave this as it is. We may adjust this makeup gain because it's going to reduce the overall loudness. So let's listen again and see. it's not affecting tenor, so we're going to reduce the threshold some more. Now, I think that sounds a bit better. So we're going to increase the gain right here to compensate for the loss of loudness. We're going to adjust the threshold again some more until we get a fair balance of loudness. Yeah, that's decent now. And you can also adjust it some more here. So you may not always need a compressor, but if you have maybe a sound that's like one part is far louder than the other part, like it's too significant, then use a compressor to control it. So the rule of thumb is that you start halfway in the, let me bring it up here. You start halfway in the threshold. Well, like I said, this is where the compressor starts working. So it didn't do much at this point because that was not where the loudness level was from the main signal. But when I started bringing it down, then it started compressing it gradually up until I notice. So once you notice a little bit of compression, like it sounds a little bit level, then that's fine. You don't need to do too much. Then this orders, like usually compression, I leave it between 3.5 to 4.5. That's usually the range I compress at, between 3.5 to 4.5. Then I leave all others. Then this gain is just like I said to help you compensate for the loss of loudness that the compressor caused. Well, if I were to take this back and you listen, you can see that it's not loud, and there's only, I can't take this all the way up here. It's not going to give me that loudness that I want. So this helps me compensate for the gain. So some sounds have their own natural reverb. You may not need to add your own reverb. This instrument right here, this e-piano or electric piano, has its own natural reverb. So I'm not going to add any reverb. There's really no need for now. So there's some sounds that may sound too dry, which I will show you. Then you can add reverb to it to make it sound even more interesting. So now let's move on to the next most recurring melody, which is this guy. Now you can see we have two sounds playing at the same time, and this is where it's best to pan. Now we can pan our melodies. You can pan your lead melodies from 10 to 20% left or right. Let's pan this. Let's leave it somewhere around here, and then that's when you have two similar sounds like this piano. You can pan them in opposite direction. You can even take it all the way to 30%. Then we gain stage. We're going to, like I said, we'll take it down. Then we'll bring it up until we start hearing it in line with the snare. Do not use your eyes to measure the level of the snare here. Just keep taking it up until you hear. Trust your ears. Then as usual, when you hear it at the level of the snare, then bring it up even a little bit more. That's fine. Then now we can add our equalizer to take out some muddy frequencies. So I'm going to just take it all the way here. Then we can increase the volume a little bit more, just a little bit more to be louder. And I think we have it a bit, the balance is far better now. So please make sure you refer to the charts that comes with this lesson so that you understand in more detail how to pan and when to pan. So let's go to the next most recurring melody. I believe is this guy. can see how loud this guy is. So all we have to do is turn down the volume completely. Then we're going to try and match it again with the snare. I think that's fine. We don't want it to come all the way here. That you see, it's like as if it's dragging with the other main elements, like it's as if it's dragging with the chord and the melody. So I'm going to take it down. Like as soon as you can hear it feeling good in the mix, then you just leave it at that level. We don't need to exceed that point. Again, at the bottom, then you drag it. This is good. And then we're going to EQ. Come to our EQ right here. We're going to be careful and gentle with our EQ. Now we don't need the compression here, but we're going to add a reverb now to make it even more interesting. Where is our reverb? Here. This is our reverb, and then we listen in the default setting. As usual, we'll increase our size and we'll increase the diffusion. And like I said, as soon as you start hearing the reverb, then that's it. So I think we're hearing the reverb now, and this varies from elements to elements. In the kick, in the snare, you could hear it far more easily at 9% or less, but in this melody, you need to boost it a little bit more. And what the reverb does is that it helps to fix it into the mix, like add more depth to the mix. This let's assume it's a 3D space. You are dealing with wideness. You understand? You're dealing with wideness, depth, and height, and of course the angles as well. So what the panning takes it to the angles, you understand, that is between 45-degree or 90-degree, or if it's at the middle, then the depth, the reverb gives it depth, tries to put it in a space, tries to make it sound realistic, like tries to make it sound like you are there in the room. Then the loudness takes it, you know, like just, of course, like how it is, loudness, tries to balance it out so it doesn't sound overly harsh in the ear and sound appealing and, you know, pleasant. So if I were to turn this effect off, you can see how dry it's sounding. So adding a reverb can help put your elements, like your melodies or some drum percussions and the rest, into a better space. All right, so now I'm going to go on to this. That is this part right here. And you can see I didn't pan this. It's going to be a center because we have, like I said, you refer to the guide. We already have two elements, left and right. You understand? Now this is going to be in the middle since they're all playing at the same time. So it has balance. It's going to be at the middle. Then here, our pads. Our pad also is going to be at the middle because it's playing in between these two guys. Like I said, we turn it down, then we increase it gradually. Then we EQ. You don't need to add reverb, it has its own natural reverb already. Alright, then we'll move on to the bass. This guy. So it's mixing kick and bass is always a touching subject. So as usual, take it all the way down, then we'll bring it up gradually. It doesn't have to be complex as people make it to be. So when with the bass, you're trying to match it with the kick, the loudness of the kick. Pay more attention to the kick. Do not solo it, like do not solo while mixing. Allow the elements to be playing, but try and target it with the kick. Once you feel like it's now in perfect contact with the kick, like it's not overshadowing the kick, and at the same time it's not lost with the kick, then you feel like that's where you get the perfect balance for your kick and bass. Yeah. And you can have different results depending on what you're mixing. If you're mixing on headphones, you may need to listen on you may need to know your bass sound on your headphones or speakers. So you have to listen to a couple of songs to know how bass typically sounds there. So I think this is a first start. Then let's EQ it. So you can see this is a bass, so it has a lot of bass elements. So what do we do at the same time? Like I said with the kick, we're going to cut things below 40 or 35 hertz. So like our bass stays in the middle because it's a bass element. Bass elements stay in the middle. So now let's listen to this and make sure our parts are intact. So we have another final melody here. So you can see we have this melody here now. Now do we pan it left or right? Now that depends. So let me solo something so you hear. So where you hear this guy and I think this. So they're kind of like in the same family, so you don't want them to be in the same lane, so you kind of take them in opposite direction, but it may not be as fast all the way here. It can be just somewhere here closer to the center but not too far from the center. So now let's bring everything back together. I'm going to adjust it. Like I said, take it down. Then we're going to add an EQ. All right, I think that's fine for that mix. So make sure you reference the charts while you're mixing. It's going to be very helpful. Remember, similar elements stay in opposite direction in the pan. That is, like a guitar will be on the left, a piano will be on the right, or vice versa, or two pianos will be in opposite direction, or two guitars opposite direction. Bass elements stay in the middle. And when you have two elements already pan left or right, typically other elements, like for example, we have these elements here, this and these guys, like these two main elements. This was the chorus and this was the lead melody, already panned left and right. So some other melodies are going to be more closer to the center than others. Depends, but most times it's going to be closer to the middle. They may not always fall in the middle like these two guys right here, but this melody here happened to fall a bit closer to the middle than this and this guy right here. So make sure you reference the chart for better visual understanding if you're having problems understanding what I'm explaining. I hope you do not, but if you do, the chart is there. All right, so before we export our beats, it's best to go over the mix again because your first mix is hardly perfect. Actually, yeah, there's nothing like a perfect mix, but it can always be improved. So before you export your beat, it's best you listen to it again, maybe at a different time. Maybe it can, if best, the next day, listen to it again and look for where you can make adjustments. So I'm going to listen to this beat again, preferably on a different sound source, maybe a different speaker or a different headphone, or even possibly your phone. Just listen to it somewhere else other than where you were used to listening to it, and then compare it to some other songs that you feel are very close, and then you make the appropriate changes. Now let's listen and see. I feel like the kick was a bit too loud, so I'm going to take down the kick a little. Then I'm going to come here. I feel like this reverse can be a bit louder. I think that's fine. You adjust accordingly. Then we'll come to this. I think this guy also sounds a bit. Now this will vary depending on your mix and what you're mixing. So it's best to just listen to it over and over again to just transport out the changes. So I've already done that, and this is why I can tell the changes. So that is that dun dun. I'm going to add a little bit of reverb. It sounds a little bit too dry, so I'm going to add a little bit of reverb. Then I'm going to listen. That sounds too much. Increase the size as always. Take the words down. Then increase it somewhere and see. A little bit more. A little bit more. Remember, you add reverb on. Once you start hearing it, you back off. Again. I think this is fine for now. Adjust the level, bring it down a little bit more. Another thing again you should know is that when you add effects like maybe compression, EQ, reverb, you may need to come back here and readjust the loudness, and maybe even make it change the level of the pan, maybe even pan it a bit further apart or closer to the center or even in the opposite direction. So there's no constant. Always remember that there's no final constant in mixing. You always go back and tweak things, but I think that there's no perfect mix, but just do the mix until you feel is good enough. And usually and your next mix will always be better than your previous mix. At least that's something you should aspire for. So your first mix might sound good, your next one might sound better, and it keeps progressing. So what you take away from this lesson is step one, go over your projects. You can start from the drums, just solo the drums, listen to it and feel like which sounds off, you can adjust it. Then go to your melodies, listen to which sounds off, then you can adjust it. Then you can listen to all of them all together, playing together. Then you adjust which ones you feel isn't sounding complementary. They should all sound complementary to each other. And I'm going to show you a trick right now to know if your mix is a decent mix. It's called the mono trick. So I'm going to come here. Actually, I'm going to show you two tricks. So I'm going to come to the master channel right here. You see this button right here. It's called the mono stereo separation. I'm going to take it all the way here to the right, and it's going to make it mono. So if I can hear all my elements clearly, then I know that my mix is there. Because one of the essence of mixing is clarity and balance. So I know that it's clear. Like I can hear everything clearly. So I can just scroll through. If I can still hear everything clearly in mono, then my mix is decent. Of course, it not sound as good as stereo, but the aim of using it in mono is to make sure that you can hear everything clearly. Then another trick I want to show you is called equalizer trick. Now you may not have a small speaker like this because I have this lying around in my studio. You may not have this speaker. You can look at my webcam right here. You may not have something like this lying around. It's a very cheap, inexpensive speaker, not like my studio monitors. Sorry about that. So I'm going to try and simulate it by using equalizer. I'm going to take out a lot of low end frequency up to 500 hertz. You can see the read here, 500 hertz. So we listen now and see. I'm going to use type high pass, type steep. Sorry, order steep. That was the wrong band. Order steep, yeah. So now this is it. Now then we listen. Make sure that everything still sounds clear. You can take it down to 200 hertz. Let's leave it at, let's say 250 hertz. I think most speakers could have the preset. Let's see my presets right here. Let's see, mixing check. Oh, okay, I don't have it on this FL Studio. But anyway, I think it's around 250 to 500 hertz. I've forgotten the range, but I think it's 250 hertz. I'm sure of 250 hertz. So then we listen. If you can hear your kick, your elements, and everything clearly. And this is the best time to also make adjustments in the loudness of some instruments. Some instruments that sound overly louder than others now, you can go back and readjust it as well. We can adjust our percussion loop and snare, you can see. Just a little bit, and that's fine. You can hear our bass if you listen closely. Now we'll go back and readjust this guy here, it's too loud. Then this guy too, a bit too loud. Yeah. So if your mix is able to successfully pass through these stages, then most times your mix is already really good to go. All right, so now let me show you how to export your mix. We have to make sure we go back here and turn off that EQ effect. We're going to come here, file, and export to wave. You select your directory where you're supposed to go to. You name it properly. Let's say we name it Afrobeat mixing session. Then we don't want, I need to come have this menu right here. Please select 24 beats. Make sure it's in stereo. Make sure it wraps remainder so it doesn't extend and keep going on and on when it exports. And leave this at the highest 512 point sync. So you can just basically observe what I do, but make sure you turn this splits mixer track off and make sure you leave this on, your insert effects and your master effects. So you can just look at mine and just make sure yours matches my export settings. So I'm going to click start. And now, let's see, this is it in wave file. So now we're going to master this beat. I'm going to drag it into the project again. Mastering your beat is not always recommended, but there may be times where you need to master it. So we're going to right click here and solo it. And then we're going to come here and Control L. And then we turn it on. And then we listen. So we're going to just use, I'm going to show you just the basics of it. When this is not in-depth mastering, because we're only going to need a limiter. Let's see, where is our limiter? uh Dynamics limiter. So let's say maybe you want to send to somebody on WhatsApp or email and you want them to be able to hear it, because this is not going to be for professional use. When you add a little bit of mastering to your beat, it's not going to be for professional. It's simply for maybe distribution or commercial purpose, but it's not going to be for professional studio use anymore. So I just simply going to listen. Make sure yours is at the limits phase right here. And we're simply going to increase the ceiling, then increase the gain a little bit. Now, let me show you something. If it gets to this point, you see that's clipping. We don't want that. So you can just let me reset this and reset this. So you can just take this to, let's say, 1 o'clock, that is, or 1:15, right? 1:10. I think it's 1:10. That is by the analog clock, 1:10 or 2:10. Take it somewhere here, then you can increase it a little bit to match it or bring it lower. It should just sound a bit louder, nothing too serious. Then if I turn it off, you can see the difference. So this is fine. I don't recommend you to master your project, but if you feel like you need to, then this is the easiest way out. Or if I turn it off and I double click this and I click normalize and I listen, it's also an easy way out, but this is only for the beats you mix in FL Studio. I'll not recommend you to have a beat from someone else and normalize it. It's the beats you mix in FL Studio you can do this for. But the other one I showed you is for virtually any project at all, even if it's a song. But it's not really much, but it's just to make it louder. So now we export it now as MP3. We come to File, Export, MP3, and then we save it MP3. Make sure it's in stereo. Make sure it's in the highest bit rates. Make sure it's all the way here. And please make sure that while exporting, it's always in full song mode, not pattern mode, full song mode, and it's in wrap remainder. And yeah, you can copy everything here and then you export. And then you see we have our MP3 file right here. All right. If you found this tutorial helpful, don't forget to leave us with a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button so that people that need this video can easily find it right here on YouTube. And also feel free to check out more of my videos that will help you level up your music making skills. Cheers.